the secret stranger inside you. Have you ever said or done something that felt completely out of character, something you regretted almost immediately, and thought, where did that even come from? Or maybe you feel stuck in the same self-sabotaging loop in your career. In your relationships, and you just can't seem to break free, no matter how hard you try. It can feel like there's some invisible force holding you back, a part of you that's secretly working against your happiness. Well, you're not alone, and you're not imagining it. What you're bumping into is a hidden, disowned part of your mind. The famous Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung had a name for it, the shadow, and he gave a pretty stark warning, said that until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. For most of us, there's a gap between who we think we are and who we are. So we all build an identity, a sort of public-facing mask that shows off our best side, the kind, smart, successful version of us. But hiding just behind that carefully built facade is everything we've decided is unacceptable. It's a collection of all the pieces of ourselves we were taught to hide, push down, and deny, starting way back in childhood. And I'm not just talking about the bad stuff like anger or jealousy. It can also be our power, our creativity, or our vulnerability. Anything we were told was too much or not enough. This hidden part of you is your shadow. It's not a mistake or a flaw in your design. It's a natural, universal part of being human. Today we're going to shine a light into that darkness. We'll explore what the shadow is, see how it secretly runs our lives, and understand why turning to face it is the single most important step you can take toward living a truly authentic and empowered life. Shadow work explained. Why everyone carries a shadow. To get the shadow, we first have to look at how Carl Jung saw the human mind. He believed our psyche has different layers. First, there's the ego, which is our conscious mind. It's the center of our identity. Everything we know and believe about ourselves. Then there's the persona, which is the social mask we wear for the world. You can think of it as our PR agent. The persona is designed to help us fit in and conform to social expectations so that we're accepted. But what happens to all the parts of us that don't fit that perfect image? That's exactly where the shadow comes in. The shadow is essentially the dark side of our personality. It's not necessarily evil, but it's dark because it's hidden from our awareness, living in the shadows of our unconscious mind. It's like a storage container for every part of ourselves that our conscious ego has rejected or disowned. It's a psychological blind spot, and it's home to our repressed weaknesses, our secret desires, our primal instincts, and our unresolved pain. It's what Jung called the thing a person has no wish to be. Imagine your personality as a house. The living room and kitchen that you keep tidy for guests, that's your conscious ego and persona. They're well lit and presentable. But every house also has a basement or a cluttered attic, a place where you toss everything you don't want to look at. The broken furniture, the old junk, the stuff you'd rather forget about. That's your shadow. You know it's down there, but you keep the door locked, maybe a little afraid of what's inside. Might think that if you ignore it, it can't affect you. Right? But the things in the basement don't just stay put. They rattle, they creak, and sometimes they find a way to burst out and cause chaos in the main house. This is a crucial point. The shadow is alive and autonomous. It's a living part of your personality. Because it's outside of your conscious control, it will find ways to make its presence known. As Jung wrote, a man possessed by his shadow is always standing in his light and falling into his traps. He lives below his potential, sabotaging his success and happiness without ever knowing why. This is why shadow work, the process of exploring and integrating these hidden parts, is so important. It's not about getting rid of the shadow, because that's impossible. It's about finally turning on the light in the basement, taking a look around, and making peace with what you find. The origin story of your shadow, where does it come from? Nobody's born with a shadow. It's something that develops over time, shaped by our experiences from the moment we enter the world. The shadow is actually a natural side effect of becoming a social human being. As kids, our most basic need is to be loved, accepted, and kept safe by our family and community. To make sure that happens, we get really good at figuring out which parts of our personality get us praise, and which parts get us disapproval or punishment. Think about your childhood. Were you a chatty, loud kid who was always being told to be quiet? You might have learned that being expressive leads to rejection, so you started pushing that part of yourself down. It didn't just vanish, got moved into the shadow. Or maybe you were taught that anger is bad, that good kids don't get angry, so you learn to swallow your frustration, pushing it deep into your unconscious. Perhaps you were praised for being logical and tough, but shamed for being sensitive or too emotional. That natural sensitivity then became a hidden, shameful part of you. This process doesn't stop in childhood. It continues throughout our whole lives. Societal norms, cultural values, religious beliefs, and what our friends expect of us all. Of these things help build our shadow. We learn what's considered masculine or feminine, strong or weak, good or bad. Anything about us that doesn't fit into the acceptable box gets exiled. Every time we hide a piece of ourselves because we're afraid of being judged, shamed, or rejected, we are feeding our shadow. The tricky part is that this isn't always a conscious choice. A lot of this repression happens automatically. We create a story about who we are. I'm a kind person. I'm a strong person. I'm easygoing. And our mind filters out any evidence that contradicts that story. We can get so good at this that we become total strangers to our own hidden selves, genuinely believing the mask we wear is our real face. On top of that, the shadow isn't just personal. Jung also talked about a collective unconscious, kind of shared database of experiences and archetypes inherited by all humans. This means our shadow can hold not just our repressed stuff, but also the unresolved darkness of our culture and society, like prejudice or inherited trauma. So building a shadow is a complex process, a mix of our personal history and our shared human story. It's the price we pay to fit in, and it's the baggage we all carry on the journey of life. Recognizing your shadow in daily life, the telltale signs. Since the shadow is unconscious by definition, you can't just decide to look at it head on. It's like trying to see the back of your own head without a mirror. But the good news is, the shadow is constantly sending up flares, leaving clues in our everyday thoughts, feelings, and actions. Learning to spot these clues is the first step to making the unconscious conscious. The most common and powerful way the shadow shows itself is through a psychological process Jung called projection. Projection is when we unconsciously take a quality we can't accept in ourselves and pin it on someone else. It's seeing our own shadow reflected in the people around us. Have you ever had an intense, almost irrational dislike of someone? Maybe you find a coworker unbearably arrogant, or you can't stand how greedy a public figure seems, or you get furious with someone you see as lazy. According to Jung, these huge emotional reactions are often a sign that the person is just mirroring a part of their own shadow. The very things that trigger us the most in other people are often the exact qualities we've pushed down in ourselves. For example, if you were taught that selfishness is a terrible flaw and have built your identity around being selfless, you'll likely be triggered by people who put themselves first. Their behavior isn't necessarily good or bad, but it activates your own repressed selfishness. It's a part of you that secretly wishes you could set better boundaries or say no more often. That intense feeling of judgment is a giant flashing arrow pointing right at your shadow. This also works for positive traits. If you find yourself idolizing someone for their confidence or creativity, it might be a sign you're projecting your golden shadow, the positive qualities you've disowned onto them. Another huge clue that the shadow is at work is self-sabotage. This is when you act in ways that go directly against what you consciously want. You want that promotion, but you keep procrastinating on the big project. You want a loving relationship, but you keep pushing away people who are good for you. You want to be healthy, but you can't stop your destructive habits. Jung would say this isn't just bad luck. It's often the shadow acting out. When a part of you has been ignored for too long, it can start a kind of internal rebellion to get your attention, messing up your conscious plans. It's like your conscious mind says, "We're going this way." And the shadow, full of repressed energy, screams, "No, we're not," and slams on the brakes. Other signs can include unexplained moods or outbursts, suddenly feeling a wave of anger, sadness, or anxiety that seems way out of proportion to what's happening. This can be a shadow eruption, where a repressed emotion gets too strong to hold back and just bursts out. Chronic blame and victimhood. If you constantly find yourself blaming other people or outside circumstances for your problems, it might be a way to avoid taking responsibility for your shadow traits, its major inconsistencies. Saying one thing but doing another. Or having those Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde moments where your behavior feels alien to you is a classic sign of an unintegrated shadow. The goal here isn't to judge yourself, but to get curious. Every trigger, every act of self-sabotage, every intense emotional reaction is a message from your unconscious. It's a knock on the door from the parts of you that have been left in the dark, asking to be let back in. The golden shadow, uncovering your hidden strengths. When we talk about the dark side, it's easy to think the shadow is just a junkyard of everything bad and ugly about us. But that's one of the biggest myths about Jung's work. He made it clear that the shadow isn't just for our flaws. It also contains a treasure trove of positive qualities, untapped potential, and incredible energy. Jung called these repressed positive parts the golden shadow. The golden shadow is made up of all the amazing parts of yourself that you disowned, often for the same reason you buried the negative stuff. Fear of rejection, social pressure, or just feeling like you weren't good enough. Maybe as a kid, your creative spirit was called silly. Maybe your natural confidence was labeled as bossy, or your deep sensitivity was seen as a weakness. Maybe you grew up in a family that was suspicious of success, so you learned to play small and hide your ambition, so you wouldn't make anyone uncomfortable. All of that brilliance, your creativity, your leadership, your compassion, your power, got locked away in the shadow right alongside the anger and envy. Jung believed that for many people, the shadow can be as much as 90% pure gold. It holds your submerged greatness and your undiscovered gifts. Ignoring this gold is just as damaging as ignoring the darkness. It can leave you feeling incomplete and unfulfilled, like you're living a watered-down version of your life. You might struggle with a lack of confidence, feel like an imposter, or just feel disconnected from your own potential. So, how do you spot your golden shadow? It's the same way you spot the dark shadow. Projection. Look at the people you really admire, the ones you put on a pedestal. The qualities you idolize in your heroes and role models are often just reflections of your own golden shadow. That artist whose creativity you envy, that's your own disowned creative spark. It's a leader you admire for their courage. That's your own repressed potential to lead. It's that friend who seems so effortlessly intuitive. That's your own hidden wisdom. We project our gold onto others because deep down we don't feel worthy of claiming it for ourselves. We think, oh, I could never be that confident, or I'm not talented enough to do that. But this keeps us stuck. The fear of our own light can be just as paralyzing as the fear of our own darkness. Stepping into your full potential can feel scary because it means being more visible, taking on more responsibility, and opening yourself up to judgment. Shadow work isn't just about facing your demons. It's about reclaiming your treasure. It's about digging up the gold you buried long ago. By facing the parts of yourself you fear, you also make room to embrace the parts of yourself you admire. Integrating the golden shadow means giving yourself permission to be brilliant, to be powerful, to be creative, and to be fully, unapologetically you. It's about realizing that the amazing qualities you've admired in others have been inside you all along, just waiting for you to bring them into the light. This journey into the self is a deep one, and it's something every single one of us is going through, whether we know it or not. I'm really curious to hear from you. Have you ever had a shadow moment? Maybe a time you had a huge reaction to someone, or noticed a pattern of self-sabotage? Share your experience in the comments below. Your story might just be the thing someone else needs to read to have their own aha moment. And if this kind of deep dive into the human mind is your thing, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. Understanding ourselves is a lifelong journey, and we've got a lot more to explore together. To wrap it up, the idea of the shadow, introduced by Carl Jung, is one of the most powerful tools we have for understanding ourselves. It's the hidden, unconscious part of our personality where we've stored everything we decided was unacceptable, both our so-called flaws and our hidden talents. This shadow gets formed throughout our lives, as we learn to fit in with the world around us, pushing away pieces of ourselves to feel safe and loved. Though it's hidden, the shadow has a huge influence on our lives. It shows up in projections, where we see our own disowned traits in other people, and in patterns of self-sabotage that hold us back from what we truly want. Ignoring the shadow doesn't make it go away, just lets it grow stronger in the dark, leading to inner conflict and feeling disconnected. The real path to becoming a whole person, which Jung called individuation, is to turn around and face this darkness. That's what shadow work is all about, a courageous commitment to making the unconscious conscious. It means not only acknowledging the tough stuff, the anger, the envy, the fear, but also embracing the golden shadow, which is the incredible potential for creativity, strength, and authenticity that's sitting dormant inside you. This work isn't about becoming perfect. It's about becoming whole. It's about ending the war inside yourself and learning to hold both your light and your darkness with compassion. It's a journey that takes courage and honesty. But the payoff is huge. A life that isn't dictated by unconscious fate, but one that is guided by the conscious choices of an authentic, integrated self. By embracing our shadow, we don't become darker. We become more complete, more resilient, and finally, truly free.